it's my job to measure participation and sort of consumer demand overall in the outdoor market. And what I see in the participation data and the consumer intelligence data is a larger group of participants. I mean, we've gained about 30 million participants since the pandemic. We're at about 60% of all Americans over the age of 6 participating in some form of outdoor activity. And that's good news. A lot are coming in gateway activities like hiking or even running and transferring to trail running and discovering, hey, it's pretty cool out here. I kind of like running on dirt. Maybe I want to try camping next. So we've gained a lot of new participants. And while this has happened, and frankly, for a decade before this happened, we were seeing a decline in the frequency of activity. So, we've got a lot more participants now, but they're participating much less frequently. So the average is 65.2 a year. Back in 2012, it was 87.4 a year. So, we're seeing that decline. And really what we're seeing is a lot of people participating less frequently, especially young adults, and an opportunity to be more intentional about engaging the 30 million people that joined us since the pandemic, and really being intentional about encouraging people to just do one more outside, one more hike, maybe try camping. Hey, climbing's cool. Paddle sports are amazing. So that's what I'm seeing in the data. And the problem with that is that, we've thought for years that, these core really frequent participants were driving the market. I heard over and over again, 80% of sales are to 20% of the participant group of the consumer market. And we did further research in consumer intelligence and segmented the market as of 2025 and found that that's just not happening. What we see is a very, very large group in the less frequent participation categories, the lower spend categories, and sort of the lower intensity of approach to outdoor recreation, which is sort of aggression. Do you come in and say, hey, I paddle once or twice a year, or, are you doing it every chance you get? So, there's a difference between those two participants and those two consumers in terms of how they spend and how they approach outdoor and, and what they mean to the market. And I'll tell you what, the super core, like the super frequent, super high spending, sit at about 7% of the market, maybe 6.5%. And they're pretty solid, but there's a very large group of people that used to participate 51 times or more, or 51 times to about 250 times a year, and that group is declining. And that's not great news for anybody, because the more frequent the participant, the more frequent the sale, the more probably high end the sale might be, so higher margins. So we're looking at that and thinking about what we can do as an industry. It could be just a one more time campaign, right? Just go paddle one more time. Maybe try C2R.
Yeah. Now, Pam, let's look at that next slide real quick, because, I so appreciate the depth of the research that you've done, Kelly. But just the fact that we know there are currently just over 40 million US paddlers, and we can look at the 1-year growth versus the 3-year trend in each of these segments of different kinds of paddling. But you've got customer segmentation that's even more robust than that, because you just referred to it and you talked about it as their approach to the activity.
Yeah.
And the way they think about whether they're going to do their next trip, who they're asking, who they're going to, how much they're going to spend, and that there's just tremendous opportunity for us to get one more sale from the folks that are not the hardcore participants, right?
But yeah, and just to give you a little bit of a teaser overview that I didn't include in this slide, and in terms of the percentage of frequent participants in paddle, I'll tell you what, in the participation data, the threshold is 8 times or more. That makes you core. Only 23% of recreational kayakers met that threshold. So paddled 8 times or more in a year, and it doesn't get better. Actually, it's a lot less in sea touring, in SUP, in rafting, especially in rafting. But I mean, that's an interesting opportunity. Can we engage participants to paddle more often?
So guys, this is just a teaser of the kind of robust data Kelly's going to be bringing us in October. I can't wait for you to see all of it. It's going to change the way you ask questions in your business. It's going to change the way you interact with your team. And this is one of those things that you're either going to want to bring somebody with you to the collab to see this data with you so that they can perceive it from their role in a way that's different than the way you perceive it from your role at your company, or you're going to want to bring this slide back and show it to them and have this conversation. It's going to be that robust. So I really, I can't encourage you enough to come and take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kelly.
you're welcome. I love sharing the data. I didn't even get to talk about the slide, but I wanted to apologize to the panel earlier when we were just talking and getting ready. I completely swapped these two trend lines. The orange is 1 year of growth, and the green is 3 years of average annual growth in each of the different activities, as you can see. And that tells me that it's actually a slowing trend going on in paddle sports, and it's not incongruent with what I'm seeing across outdoor. I mean, we grew 1.1% between 2024 and 2025. And our average 3 year average annual growth across outdoors 2.9. So don't feel too bad, and you're doing really well. But it's just
Right, but like for example, if you're a business that is focused on sea kayaking and you've seen a 3 year, basically flat, a little bit up, but basically flat, but then the last year it was 3% down.
well,
I mean,
yeah.
you need to figure out how you're going to reach out to some of these stand-up paddleboard and recreational kayak fishing folks, right?
Especially, I mean, recreational kayak has the critical mass. I mean, there's no doubt that targeting sea kayak, touring kayaks up, everything else has its advantages. But when I look at this participant base, I'm like, wow, that's 15.3 million. That's a whole lot of kayakers that are just kind of dabbling at this point.